Hello, hello, hello. I hope you guys can hear me. How is everybody doing? Oh my god. I just came out of the shower. I was in the shower with hot water and doing some karaoke. Oh my god, is that my baby? I feel like we haven't caught up in a while. What's up, EA? Nice to see you in here. Sambaza, I accepted your request. I hope you're coming in.
Yeah, I am.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Well, now
Very well. Very well.
Yeah, the problem is working this thing out.
What thing?
My stand. I need to be like this. First of all.
I see the background is back.
Oh yeah, the background has to be back.
How you doing? How was your day? I almost forgot about today. I was like, oh fuck, is that still today? Hi, Jen.
Yeah, it's happening. Hey, a lot of people are getting ready for it. They were.
I know. We are waiting for you.
Jen was asking me if we had done it before.
Oh my god, I love that. That means we're doing something right. People are. We just need to get better at advertising this shit earlier, but we're doing something right.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
It is. Hi, Miss Officer. Hi,
Oh, Miss
everybody.
Officer is there. Oh, hey, Miss Officer, what's up?
If you guys have never been here before, this is PodTalk, Talk Show with P and Sambaza, and we do this every last Saturday of the month. But sometimes because we have shit going on in our lives, it doesn't happen on Saturdays. It happens on days like Thursday, but it's still at the end of the month. And every month we pick a topic. Last month I picked the topic. This month Sambaza picked the topic, so he will be running this shit. And the topic of this month is milestones, wins and losses, right?
Yep.
So I'm curious, what made you decide this is the month to have this topic?
Let's see. Let's put it like this. Oh, this looks better.
Okay, before you answer that, thank you, Jen. I only have lipstick. This is no makeup. It literally is a filter on Instagram. I don't do makeup. I only apply lipstick. But also because I showered before I came in here, but I shower hot water, and I was having a karaoke country music concert in my shower, so I stayed in the water longer than I was supposed to. So that's why my eyes are red. So I needed a filter that didn't make me look sour, because I look like I've been crying or shit. Like, oh, I have red eyes. But it's no makeup, just filter and a lipstick. This filter, I recognized it 2 days ago, so I've been abusing it, and my teeth look so.
Oh.
Oh my God! I wish I had, but if I did, I probably wouldn't have made sense. But I do that, but I just didn't before here. And it's weird because every time I come in here, I am red because I shower. And however cold or warm it is, I will always shower hot water, like burning hot water. And I was in the shower for almost 30 minutes dancing and drinking beer. So that probably is also a reason. But I haven't smoked it. But I do have my vape just in case, you know, if Sambaza ends up dragging me to smoke. But
No, I wouldn't drag you to smoke. No, we should be good.
But Miss Officer, I feel like me and you know, we can already hang, because if that was your first thought,
look,
I already know me and you. Cheers, I'm having some champagne. God, I wish I had some champagne, but I finally did my laundry yesterday, but it was on my bed the whole day. So today I literally had to put my laundry away. So I had to start drinking because it was entertaining me and helping me do laundry.
Oh.
But yeah.
What's up, Jen? How you doing? I'm doing great. Everything is fine. I guess everybody's doing okay. Can you hear me well now?
Oh yeah, I can hear you very well.
Okay.
Awesome. So go ahead. My question was, what made you decide this topic for end of August?
Oh, because of my podcast. Going into year 5 of the podcast, and we were looking into trying to see the 5 years. What milestones do you
Looking
have when you
back.
right? And most people don't look back and look at their milestones, wins and losses every time they get to a certain point. And I'm saying not most, but some of the people don't. And I feel that whenever you get through these little milestones that you go through in your lifetime of the podcast, I think you should celebrate. Even in life in general, you should
I was gonna
celebrate a little
say,
bit.
not just in podcasting, in whatever you're doing, even in life, or just whether it's, especially for those people who are in AA, recovery, you're recovering from an addict, you've been working on certain growth, or your job, whatever the shit is, right? It's always nice to look back and celebrate both wins and losses. You said you're getting to 5 years. When are we celebrating 5 years? You want to share with us
It
the
was
day?
supposed to be this week. I've been so busy. I planned a cake. Did you feel like last year? Can you imagine last year I had this cake? We had I thought about a cake, and I celebrate with candles and have like 5 candles. I'd imagined it so well. I mean, it was right there. Hey, Mark, welcome.
Hi,
And
Mark. I was giving Mark such a hard time yesterday.
Oh,
I felt.
but going back to what we're saying,
so when was your 5 years? Back to my question first. When is your actual 5 year? What's the date? I know you can ask me in the dead of sleep. I know it's April 22nd because my dad's birthday is April 25th. I know my podcast celebrates a birthday. When is yours? You can't just tell me a week. This week.
Technically, it's August 25th.
Oh,
but I had started in July. In July, I'd done what you call a soft launch, and that's about the time that it started. So I think it's July 21st, somewhere around there. But the reason why there's a reason why.
Okay, I was gonna ask. Okay, go
now,
ahead.
August 25th is my mom's birthday. So that's the reason why I put it on the same time as my mom's birthday, so I can have it and remember it around the same time.
But you still fucking forgot.
No, I didn't forget. I haven't forgotten.
I just asked you and you said you had this whole idea, but you didn't do because it was sometime last week. So
yes, it was. But there's so many things that I'm doing, and at this moment in time, I cannot do that whole thing where I have the cake. I wanted the cake and all that.
You make it sound like it's traveling to Africa just to get a cake and 5 candles. That's such a big deal to celebrate a milestone that's worth it.
Okay, how about this? Maybe you might do it next week on our show, on our live show, on Wednesday with Jen.
Yeah, with Jen. Probably. Come on, like there's certain things I would understand if you were trying to plan a party or organize all your past guests, but just to get a cake and candle, and sometimes it doesn't even need to be a whole cake. You can get a cupcake with a number 5 candle. Like, you need to celebrate. It's 5 years of your fucking hard work.
Yeah, but you have to get a moment in time and be settled.
No, you can do that later, but on the actual date, you need to do something, and then later you can do the big thing or whatever. So we can.
We'll go around. We'll go around.
Yeah, we're gonna argue.
We're gonna, and I'm. Maybe we need to talk about this on the background. In the back, behind the tent, and I'll explain to you what's going on. But okay, yes, that's the reason
I understand why. If there's some life issues, then that's okay. I get it, but still, fuck it. But okay, so
my
5 years.
That's my win. So 5 years getting in. Like I said, you have to kind of go into to look at your wins and look at your losses, and you don't count them. And that's what the other thing is. When you look at losses, I want to say, is it a loss? Or is it always going to be a win? Because a loss, kind of like, to me, I never imagined me losing something in terms of podcasting, because I don't live to regret podcasting anyway, because to me, I live with the moment. Like today, I get a chance to talk to you. I'm hanging out with you may not have been the opportune time that I would have wanted to be. Like remember you said it would be on Saturday, but just having this time and hanging out with you is my win, and I'm looking at it as a win all the time. It'll never be a loss. Um, if I miss an interview, or like say for example somebody I wanted to come onto my show and they didn't show up, that's still going to be a win to me, because guess what? I probably learned how to navigate better, because maybe the first loss that I had of somebody not showing up to my show, it hurt me so bad, right? But I learned something. Maybe it was how I presented myself. Maybe it's how I arranged my time. Maybe I was not flexible. See, so I learned to say, okay, fine. When I'm calling this particular people, or when I'm trying to do this, I have to put my time to a certain degree, and then it'll be able to work much better. So that's how I look at it in terms of win and losses when I'm looking at my milestones.
I love that. And curious, you said you learned how to navigate better because you took it so hard on the first time when your guests didn't show up or something. So can you share more about that? Like, how did you
Never,
navigate it?
never did. You know what? Because on
So
my show,
you
that's
still
what I
get in your
explained.
feelings if a guest doesn't show up?
No, so that was one thing. And you see, one thing about the podcast, you should look at your podcast as a life lesson too. Because one person on my podcast called Crystal Asige, she is now a senator in Kenya. Uh, she told me whenever
Wait,
something like that happened.
wait. Is it just me in the audience? When you are listening to Sambaza, there's been some talk?
So I'm saying, is it me?
No, no, it's good.
Okay, maybe when I move, I'm trying a new mic. Um, so what I was saying is, whenever I was interviewing her, she told me when you miss out on somebody, like for example, whatever it is, you look at what next. That's the first question that you should come up in your mind and say, what next? So when you say like what next is, what else is there out for you to do? Forget about what has just happened, you know. So whenever I get the opportunity, or whenever I am going through something in terms of my podcasting, say I don't get something that I wanted in the podcast, maybe I wasn't able to get to a particular place at a particular time or interview somebody, I'll be like, yeah, what next? You know, and
But but
that
but
that
but
keeps me moving.
that's what you learned to navigate. So you can't say you didn't
Yeah.
learn how to navigate, but you learned that to use that tool or to figure out in that way. So that is a lesson in itself. So you can say I didn't I still am there, but when you learn to switch your mind, because mindset is also a tool. A lot of people still get stuck in their mindset instead of just switching the mindset, because all you have to do, like, okay, this didn't work, what can we do to make it work, or what can we do? So that's a mindset switch. So
Right,
there you
right.
go.
And for you, have you had any milestones that you would look at, like say, okay, fine, this is a milestone that I've had, and it's quite exhilarating, or you look at the milestone and say, you know what, I'm doing so well for myself on my podcast.
So I've never been a numbers person, right? But it's been interesting lately to see my numbers go.
Hmm.
And
I see.
a lot of a lot of you all know that I recently celebrated 10K, and that was in July 16th. And as of today, I got to 20K. It took me 4 years to get to 10K, and then it took me less than a month to get to 20K. so, so it shows you that, and a lot of people were telling me when I got my first 10K, a lot of people say 10K might have been hard to get, but it's gonna skyrocket from here. And I never believed it. I was like, what's the difference? Like, what makes it so different? But then I've been watching it, and I'm like, oh fuck, that shit just went in a month. I got to 20K, and I also know how I got there. It was a lot of help, because um there was a lot of ad work going through. Shout out to Mopad. If you don't know about Mopad, they're an ad agency that help skyrocket your podcast. But it was also the fact that recently I just came back from podcast movement, and people were coming to find me because they've heard about my podcast, or somebody has talked to them about my podcast. Literally, somebody just left reviews on my podcast, and this is a person who just met me last week, and there've been people 4 years who still haven't left reviews. But it's the it's that recognition, and having I sat down with Buzzsprout on the last day because a lot of people left Wednesday or Thursday morning. So I got oh, and Chase is here. I was literally talking about Mopad, and Chase isn't here. But Chase is part of Mopad,
Oh, hey,
and
hey.
my boss and my boss just came in, Natalie. But it was like when I was sitting
You
with
have a
the
boss?
Buzzsprout people. Yeah, I do have a boss.
Okay. I think we'll probably catch up with this.
Shout out to Nadora.
Okay. Um,
Chase says hi, Natalie
I
says hi. And so I was sitting with Buzzsprout people, right? And I was talking to them because everybody left. So we went to a different parties that night. We hanged out with Jared, owner of Podcast Movement. Shout out to him. And then when we went back to the hotel, um, it was Alban, Megan, and Kevin. The Buzzsprout team was sitting with. Shout out to, they call him the godfather of podcast,
Mhm.
School of Podcasting. Dave, he was there, and then Brian from Libsyn, who does a lot about YouTube. So we were hanging, and I was sitting between Megan and Alban, and I was talking to Alban because one thing we found out when you go to the statistics, and this is something Joe brought up to me, was like, who are you using? Because I see Mopad, because it shows how much percent I was getting from Mopad downloads as well. So we were sitting, and I was talking to him. I was like, listen, I just got to 10K, but lately look at my numbers. And we're just having this conversation, and I was like, Alban, I've been using Buzzsprout for 4 years. Every time I have to constantly keep introducing myself, and they're like, Paula, we all know you. We just make you do that because it's so much fun to get it out of you. But we have literally been watching you and paying attention. I was like, and it just felt like sometimes you never know who's paying attention or who's listening. And podcast movement was that eye opener for me. Literally, it was, and I got to see and that's why I feel like this topic being today, it was like, because I got to see my milestones paying in real life. and
Yep.
that way, that when you say losses, are they really losses? They're not. Everything happens for a reason. It was a lesson. It was not the right time. It was not the right opportunity. It didn't matter at that time, because here I was, and I'm sorry to everybody, but half of the conversation I had a podcast movement was literally Mopad, or about having legitimate conversations with people and getting to know them personally, to the extent that they're like, oh, I've heard about you. Oh, people shared about you. I've listened to your podcast. Oh, your podcast is here. Oh, we've gone put your podcast in this network. I met even a guy called John Savage. It's funny how his name is John Savage, and he runs Africa Podcast Network. He flew in from South Africa. And we just started talking. And next minute, we are calling Chris Cremisos to organize Podfest in Africa, South Africa, because apparently he has the space. People record for free. There are studios. People create content. Like, so the space is there. And Chris has been talking about that. Oh
Oh,
my
you
God,
spoke
yes, because I
to
even
John today. Okay,
exactly, because
nice.
I told him about Mopad, and
Hey,
it's funny how it
hey.
was.
But now,
How it
Paula,
was.
on those notes, now I'm really interested about that Africa doing working with Africa, especially
African
now,
agent.
yeah, with Africans, and you know how passionate I am with regard to to podcasting.
We were supposed to record with Raf and John at the conference, but everybody was running around. So
it's usually hard. It's
it,
usually
it,
hard
it,
when you have.
it
Yeah.
really is. Like,
Now, there's something I want to get from you. This is
and I just
when
want
you
to say before you run away, Chase, shout out to Mopad. They're sponsoring Afros and Audios, so thank you for that. And this happened because of podcast movement. They've already
nice.
done it, so thank you. I love it. Joe, when I told you about Black Podcast Association and I was going to that meeting, he came with me. I was like, I want to meet the people. I want to support Black folks. He came. He met Talib. He met Corey. And now they're part of sponsoring. So thank you so much. Thank you for everything Mopad does. Y'all are sleeping on Mopad. I swear, I can't thank them enough.
That's awesome.
Love you.
We appreciate you.
And Mia, Natalie, tell me I say hi to. I had a great time in our meeting with Mia. Okay, go back to you. Sorry.
So I'm very passionate about the African podcasting deal, but this podcast movement, this conferences that you've been through right now, when you look at each of the conferences and what you've learned, and this is where we can arrange and talk about milestones from your first to what you're doing currently. I wanted you to share, what you have learned throughout this journey that you've gone through, especially on visiting and, not visiting, but engaging yourself as part of these movements and all these conferences that you've attended, including Empowered Podcasting Conference that happened just recently. Now, just expound on that.
I just want to say, I think we underestimate ourselves so much, and that's why maybe I go to these conferences. And when I started going to Podfest, right?
Wait, when you say we, what do you mean we?
I mean most of us. A lot of us underestimate the power.
When you say us, who us? Who are you referring
to? Everybody. Doesn't matter. You don't need to be a podcaster.
Us podcast or people.
In general, we underestimate, and that's why sometimes we don't move forward because we're our biggest critics. Because of all those little things we are allowed to hear and I say, oh, who knows me? Oh, who believes in me? Oh, who thinks, But and that's why I'm big about surrounding yourself in spaces where you are seen without knowing you're seen, right? And so when I started going to Podfest, right, I was just being me. People knew me virtually, then we started going. But in my 4 years at Podfest, I've gone from being a speaker to a host manager to a volunteer to a mayor of Podfest, right? I went to Empowered. I wasn't even part of organizing that. But by the time I left, people felt like I was part of it. And people were literally coming to me and talking like, oh, you are that? Nice to finally meet you. And this also happened at podcast movement. This was my first podcast movement. I've never attended podcast movement. But then I had people like Ty. He's like, you talk shit with me? I wanted to meet you. I've been seeing your post on LinkedIn. You're this. It's like sometimes, yes, you don't get the reaction you want from these social medias and algorithms, and you get so mad. But people do see it. People might, and one thing about us people is we're very bad at literally commenting or supporting somebody or sending that message, yo, I saw this, it was good. But then when they meet you in real life, oh, I've been watching you. Oh, I've been paying attention. Oh, I've noticed. Oh, I've seen you did this. And you're like, but I actually didn't see you say anything, but they're here. They're real. And podcast movement, one of the different things about all these conferences, and even me and you, we met at Afros and Audios. And even though, for the first time, but even though we knew each other online, but that generated a whole different connection, even though we already had a connection. People like Ralph, all the people we met, this year we are all part of one panel, right? And all that came from being in person in the community and just us sticking to our true selves. So even in podcast movement, right, I was just being by myself. I've already got a for a job. I've got so many opportunities that came out of it. I have so many collaborations. I've to be able to help secure sponsors for Afros and Audios. I've been able to connect people, and you know me, I love connecting people. But one thing I enjoyed about podcast movement is, even though I went and I was working, right? After 5, when my shift ended,
Are
I
you
was
really working or you're having fun? Because most of the time
I
you're
was working, and
yeah, you're
literally
working it.
and they say they actually told me if I want to go back anytime, I'm welcome, and they will hire me again. Okay, so I was working, and most people, they'll tell you from 9 to 5, they knew exactly where to find Paula. I was on my station. And I loved it because I was the first contact with the speaker and telling them everything while they came, they prepared. So I got more time with speakers. I got, it was also that after 5, I was completely off duty. So even though there were so many people from Podfest who I had already known, but it was the fact that I got to know them in deeper, because at Podfest, I'm always on the run, because I'm always doing, if I'm not on the helping Mopad booth, if I'm not hosting a room, if I'm not volunteering here. So I'm always, but this one, because it was my first, I didn't have those responsibilities, right? I didn't know. So I literally got to sit down and really have intimate conversations with people. Shout out to Gordon. I know him, he's the podcast lawyer. I've known him from Podfest for 3 years, but we have never got to sit at Podfest, because him as well at Podfest, he has schedules and he has this and this. But this time we got to spend almost so much time together to the extent we're like, I'm so tired of you right now. But also to know each other in a more different levels.
Right.
So I got to do that with a lot of people. And when I tell you, from the first day when I arrived at Podfest, the owner at Podcast Movement, the owner of Podcast Movement already gave me a nickname, and I was ATL. And it reached to a point where bartenders, as soon as they saw me, they were like, Budweiser? To a point where people, to a point where people were like, have you met P? Oh, I already know P. Oh, we know P. Yeah, who's P? If it wasn't P, it was talk shit, it was ATL. But I realized how much effect I have. And somebody yesterday, because it's been a week where wins and losses, that's when you realize, right? You communities and shit. Like, I've been literally emotional this past few days and healing and recovering, because I really fell. Anytime I hang out with Mopad, I fall. I hurt myself, and I had a badass fall. I have a spine. So I was recovering. But somebody yesterday told me, they were like, Paula, you're so kind and you share so much. Be careful with the people you share and you spread your kindness. And it's funny, because when you said it, and the things that I was constantly feeling, if people have been checking out my Facebook statuses, I've been going off this past few days. It just makes sense, and I've realized that there's a curse and a blessing in these wins and losses. Because now I have 10K downloads. A lot of people have started appreciating me more as a podcaster, because now I'm in that 10K compared to when I was. And then people have seen me move. Okay, in Podfest, people are used to me because Paula has created these connections for 4 years. It's not a first time. But when people saw me thrive in podcast movement more than they expected, or they didn't notice because it was my first time, right? And by the time I left, everybody knew P.
Yes.
And that's not bragging or anything. It really is an effect I have. And you saw me at Afros. And it's not like I do anything different. I'm just me and just doing me. But then it also came to that now that people are gravitating to me for the wrong reasons, not the right ones. You know how I am all about people, but people are like, oh, Paula has these connections. Oh, these people know Paula. Oh, Paula shines. Oh, Paula in the community. Everybody like, and I was getting so much of that even around there. And the certain people even came up to me. They're like, oh.
Do you look at it as a bad thing, or you're gonna
look at it as that's why I said it's a blessing and a curse, just like on my last name. Just like when I used to talk about being a government kid, there's a blessing and a curse to it.
You
It's
always
always,
have,
yeah, you always wonder, is it coming from the same intention? Because why now? Why are you reaching out to me now, even though you have known me and you have been around me all this time? But now suddenly I can help you?
But what about if they don't have access to you before, and this is the time
No,
that they
I'm talking about people who
have?
have had access.
Okay.
I'm not talking about new connections. I'm talking about those people who would see me and just take me as I am, but now they're taking me as P.
Oh,
Oh,
oh, okay.
yeah.
I get.
Or somebody said,
I have a question.
wait,
Mhm.
I am possible power. You are hustling,
You
not
hustle.
just working. Podfest gets you.
Yeah, it does get wild from what I heard. Now, Paula, when you leave the space of the podcast, because I know it takes there's a lot of things are going on at that time, and you said at this time, do you sit down after that and count your wins and losses? Do you do that and say, okay, out of this festival or this conference that I've gone to, this is what I've picked on, and this is what I have lost on, but I'm learning. This is my lesson, right? In fact, we shouldn't even be calling them losses. We should be calling them lessons.
Lessons. They are lessons.
Wins and lessons.
That's why I tell people losses are never losses. They're lessons. But I do. I
Hmm.
always sit back
Hmm.
and again, I've only been going to Podfest, right? Because that was only the
Hmm.
conference I've
Hmm.
known.
Right.
But every year I come back from the conference, I sit down and I'm like, okay, what didn't I get to do that I wanted to do? What did I do that I wasted time where I could have navigated? Who didn't I see that I needed to see? What or conversations or meetups I wanted to go and I didn't. I look at them and then I I reminisce on what I was doing at that time, and I'm like, okay, next year we're gonna plan properly. So every time, even before I go to conferences, that's why I'm always thankful for schedule. Even though you can have the schedule and shit will never go right, but I try.
It's
Even a podcast movement, I in one night, me and Joe were hopping. It was me, Joe, Amanda, and Regina. We we stopped by a podcast movement. They were, I mean, at Podmatch. They were having dinner. We saw them say that. We were like, we can't stay. We just came to say hi, but we wanted to show our support. Then in the same area, in the back room, Spotify was having their meetup. We walked in. We saw they had pretzels and cheese, and even the waiter asked us, "What do you want to drink?" But it was like in a closet, where a room there's no windows or anything. It didn't feel like we're like, nah, man, like, and I like to see things. So we said hi, at least they noticed we stopped by. Then we went to the meetup, and this was a last person invite that I got. Everybody was supposed to RSVP from the by August 1st, but I got it last minute, and you get the full story because the video drops tomorrow. I pissed this guy off, and then he came and made up with me, and but it was all caught on videos. And I was actually excited because I was like, I'm tired of constantly being, oh, Paula is so nice, oh, Paula is this. So to finally get somebody who I pissed off, it was like, oh my god, I can piss people off. But then we went there, and it was at Fogo de Chao and free meat and free alcohol. We're like, we're sitting here because it's
right.
extra food. It's no precious, no offense to anybody else, but you got. I'm on a budget, right?
I saw that. I think I saw that clip. Not a clip, but it was a picture. Some pictures that you
Yeah.
shared.
So we
Yes.
sat there, we ate, and that was the time Ralph also was texting me like, "Pull up black, the BPA meetup was starting." I was like, "I'll be late, but I'm coming." So that's when I took Joe. After we finished, they were like, "Okay, listen, we were so full, and they're asking us this, that." We're like, "No, no, thank you, we can't anymore." And then good thing we had to walk, but I love the hotel. It was down the street to everything, so everything was happening around there. You just walk. We didn't need to Uber. We didn't leave any place. So we went to BPA. We saw them. We had a blast. And then from there, we went to another party. Then from another party, like we dropped on. Even there was this day where on Wednesday everybody was having the meetups at 5. Empowered was having at 5. Biopic was having at 5. This was having at 5. Buzzsprout was having their party at 5. Dystopia was having that. I was like, okay, this is too much. So I didn't go to the meetups because no offense, but I already know empowered people. Like, what are we doing? I've already seen you guys around. I didn't,
We were just at their
biopic,
conference.
yeah, biopic. I already seen you. Like we are seeing each other all around. I came to the meetup, so I went to the Buzzsprout party. Had a good time. I was supposed to record, it didn't work. Then from there, I went to the Dystopia party. Then shake hands, turn around, whatever. Then I went back to the Buzzsprout party because Dystopia ran out of tickets and I had to buy, but Buzzsprout had an open bar. So I was like, I'm sorry.
Hey, so I think when you brought up something here, which was very interesting regarding the way that
I
we
navigate.
set when you go to conferences and navigate how we do our conferences. Like when you sit down and say, "Hey, I have these things that I planned for. Yeah, my wins and my lessons are this." I think it's best when, and this is personally what I do. I look at the program. I look at what I want to see, and I arrange it. Now, this is my arrangement according to the way I am before I walk in. Now, I don't know what will happen when I walk in, right?
Exactly. But
So when
you
you
should
get in,
always, I feel like
fine,
you should always have that master 10. And me and you even last year, sometimes you'll be like, okay, Paul, I gotta go because this one I really need to. So you have those master 10 and then you
right,
have those if I can,
right,
because anything can
right,
happen in between.
right. Because you're not going to hit all of them, even though you can plan like this is this and this.
The
It is,
always the
yes,
meetups, people are like, let's go eat, let's go talk. Or you're in the middle of conversation and it's such a good conversation. You're
right.
like, listen, I'll get the tape, I'll get the video, I'll get the recording, whatever, but this I can never get this back.
Especially those moments when you have with people and say,
The
okay,
connection, you're
the
literally
connect,
connecting in a
right,
different way, especially when either sometimes you have constantly been connecting virtually and it's different when you're in person, or it just, it just feels different. So sometimes you're like, I'd rather sit here and continue having this conversation than go to a talk or go to this meetup. And I've had those where I'm literally sitting and I'm like, you know what, this is one I won't get. Yes, I can get it virtual, but it won't be the same. And it won't be in this group where all of us are here and everybody is asking, because sometimes people are asking questions you never thought about or
right.
even wondered, or they're sharing things you didn't even know. Yeah. So I'm like, and that's why I tell
True.
people, if you can always buy recordings in conferences, buy them, or because, and I'd rather listen to them while I'm home, because even as volunteers, we're getting all the recordings for the conferences. Even though we were able to listen to some of them. Shout out to Dominic. I was in his track. He was my last person. And after he finished this talk, we had the whole stage because he was the last person. So we turned it into a photo shoot. We were taking pictures, bro. Like, because it
Yeah,
was the
great.
moment, I'm
Right.
like, why not? But it's like, apart from those ones that were happening in my room, and sometimes even the ones that were happening in my room, I couldn't listen because we had the red t-shirts. So people coming to you, everybody knew if you need help, find a person wearing a red t-shirt. So they'll be asking questions, where is this stuff?
Hmm.
Can I
Hmm.
go here? Can I go here? So you're not fully 24/7.
Uh-huh.
Or sometimes you see somebody else who's also there, but they're really not listening. They just needed the table, and you get to connect. Like, oh my god, I was waiting to see you. Can we chat? And you're just sitting there chatting because people had headphones. So you can prepare as much, but it can never go as planned. But always just know the ones you really want to. I always put like an extra alarm on it, like that 3 times alarm.
Yeah,
That way it reminds me to walk in.
exactly, exactly. Now, do you have any future milestones that you would look at and say, you know what, when I get to this part, I'll consider that as, oh, what have you considered as a milestone? Like
to
the
be
next month?
to
Because you
be
have 2.
honest,
Hmm.
to be honest, the fact that I've been podcasting for 4 years, and as of last week, somebody came up to me and introduced themselves and was like, "Have we met?" They're like, "No, but you're talk show with P, right?" I was like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "Well, you're very known in the podcasting community." I'm like, "I am?" Like, And like, yeah, who doesn't know? And that I've always been a popular person. I mean, if you met me, like I shine wherever I go, no
That's true.
offense, and not that's not being cockiness or anything. That's just an actual fact. I
Hey,
shine wherever I go.
you gotta say it. You gotta say it.
You know,
Live with it. Right.
sometimes you just gotta own your shit, right? But then I never expected to be that in in an industry that I just started, where I still see myself as a very small, not like the tiniest fish in the big ass lake, right? The tiniest, because there are these people who have been doing this for years, and they're getting inducted in Hall of Fame. And I know some of them it might have been easy, some of them it took them longer, you know. So for me to also be, for people to see me that way, like, yeah, you know, it's like damn girl, like,
But
what else do you want now from this podcasting community? So I don't, when you ask me what my future milestones is, because even when people ask me what's the future for Talk Shit with you, like what are you envisioning, and that's why maybe sometimes I don't go to talks and just, or even when I'm networking with people, I don't network my show anything. Anybody will, unless they ask me, but I literally network and get to know people on personal level. And I will walk away, and sometimes somebody will be like, you know that girl who does this? I'm like, no, Paula, you were talking to her, whatever. I'm like, oh, that's what she does? Because I'm not concentrated in what do you do, what's your title. I'm really concentrated in getting to know you as a person. That's my thing, always getting to know people as persons. And then later, like, oh, because even in the conversation of getting to know people personally, you realize what collaborations or contributions you have for each
mm-hmm,
other. So I
mm-hmm.
never bother asking what do you do, who are you, or anything. I just go straight to that. So do you have a husband? Are you in love? Are you dating? Are you single? And conversations back. So for me, that was like a wow moment. Like I don't talk about myself, and it's funny because I was just in an episode which aired out, and I was listening to it, and even
Mm-hmm.
this guy was like, "Okay, Paula, you have constantly been talking about other people and giving people their flowers. Can you talk about you? Like, what do you do? Let the people know." Because I'm always constantly just, "Oh, you do this, you should meet this," but I'm never like, "Oh, I do this, I do this." So to be the fact that I do that and still have this community that knows me, sees me, and people are coming to me and be like, "Oh, we know you. You do this. You do this." It, that's a milestone for me already. Like, you know, like
Well, that's yeah.
that's the
That is.
highest milestone. So I don't know what future plans I have for Talk Shit with me or for my podcast journey. I'm literally going with it as I go and figuring it out, because I really am still fucking figuring it out. But I'm high on this shit. That's all I can say.
Well, hey, that's right. And Jen is saying, "Come on, podcast community. We're all a community here. Yeah, we'll
Shout
always
out
be together."
to Network and Alex is in here. Hi, Alex.
And by the way, Jen is with Walk by Accident. And to me, I think when we set up to podcast, I think our your milestone when you look back as a podcaster is look at the day one when you started your podcast. You had no idea what was going on. You had no idea what was gonna come out of it. Episode number 10. You started episode 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. Now when you look at the point where you're at, people in the industry know who you are. Listen to your podcast, listen to your watch your TikTok, watch your Instagram, they follow you on Instagram. That is very telling, because now that's the community you've gained, and those are part of your wins and lessons that you learn how to communicate with people, how to go around people. Because we like, take for example, I'll give you an example of Sambaza Podcast. Sambaza Podcast started, boom, had no idea where I was going. Next thing I know, I have C4 Collective, I have Podbreak, I have Empowered Podcasting, I have BPA. We all were there at Clubhouse. Guess what? Opened up a whole bunch of community. Now here we are 4 years into it, and we're looking back at how we started off and where we are. And yeah, we're going into 5. And when you look back and you see all these collectives that you've gone into and these spaces, don't you think that those people are part of your extension? And when they talk about your tentacles, like the way an octopus is, you know, you have your tentacles and they move up. I guess they're your tentacles. You moved out. You told people who you are, whether silently or just by you being you. You create a name for yourself. I'm sure even amongst the African community, or the diaspora community, even though you may not be talking to them a lot, they still know who you are, and they'll be like, okay, that's the girl who has a podcast. And I'll tell you this on my part, I get shocked sometimes. I'll be somewhere and we're diasporans, and somebody comes up and says, "Oh, you are the guy who does this podcast." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah. I am the one." And you don't realize that your your community has grown, has expounded, and I think for you, I'm imagining this situation where you've gotten to going into these conferences like Podfest movement, podcast movement, empowered podcasting, afros and audio, and whichever ones you create in those meetups, those are what create a name for yourself. So you're not a small fish in a big pond. Maybe when we look at the numbers that people may have gotten, like in terms of downloads and stuff like that, that may be. But when you look at the community, no, you're part of a big fish, right? So you're a big fish in a small pond. Right about now, when you look at it, the pond is about to get bigger, or you're about to move over to
That's
a
why
big pond.
that's why I said we pass, and this is why I go to conferences, because they remind me of how much big deal I am. But when I sit here in my own office and I just listen to people on social media, and they're doing all these crazy videos or things, and you're like, damn, they're better, they're this. But then you go to conferences and I be rocking and I hear talk shit, and I'm like, yeah, like people coming, and I'm like, okay, I'm not really small, and I think that's why I like going to conferences, because virtual doesn't give you that. It does give you the love and support, but it doesn't give it to you as when you see people, like literally people shouting your name or coming up to you and saying all these things. Like, let me tell you something. Shout out to Bruce. He runs World
Hmm.
Podcast Network,
Hmm.
one of the largest podcast network. He even put me on his network, and he was the first person. He even gave me a review. So season 8 ended before I went to podcast movement, and I've been, because I am not starting to put out season 9 until late September. I started putting out the first 6 podcasts we did on there, and because I also put been doing amazing 1,000 downloads and shit, like, but those are the ones I also put with the afros and audios ad today. Yeah, because episodes go out every Wednesday. So today he reached out to me on Instagram and he texted me. He was like, I just listened to your episode with Sambaza about success and what success means. I would like to have you on my podcast and talk about that and expand, because I really felt that episode. It was so in my head in the beginning. I didn't even want to put these IG episodes into, you know, but then
Uh-huh.
because I was taking a break and I knew this ad was running, I didn't want to not have new episodes. And I was like, what better way than to do that? And here, look, and this was a portrait. The success episode was from our portrait in May.
Oh, yeah. Wait, wow.
And somebody is listening at it right now and still getting insights and shit. So that's a reminder, like, and that's why I tell people, as long as you know your why, even when you get tired or anything, right? Your why brings you back. Messages like this remind you of why the fuck am I doing it? To help inspire and motivate people, and also
Hmm.
myself, because at the end it comes back, because messages like this, when I'm feeling down, they're motivating me to, like, okay, Paula, your break is coming to an end, get the fuck up, the people waiting. Like, so these are all also wins, even and lessons and new connections, because this is a connection I just met last week. And we were all the shortest people in the room. We connected because we were the shortest people in the room. And we just started
no.
talking. And the entire weekend, he would even, anytime he would see me, whoever he's with, he's like, hey, talk shit with me, come here and introduce me. He put my network, he put my episode in his network, it skyrocketed right there. He showed me a video. And because he was running a special, whoever would join his network, and it's free, but whoever would join his network at PM, they were running an all ad for the new podcasters who registered at PA. So that's more visibility. So yes,
Right.
Mopat might have been running ads, but there've also been these other visibilities. They're happening just through this simple conversation. I would have ignored him, but he runs a whole world podcast network. And then right after I met him, that's when I met the African Network podcast. And when he came to me, it was like, so am I putting you on my network? I was like, I don't know, man. I just met the African network guy, and I'm African, so that leads first to him. He's like, oh, you met John Savage? I know him. We cool. We can have you both on our net. I was like, you know what? And next thing I called Chris. They're organizing that. And then he ended up meeting Nick, Chris's new partner, who was at the conference. And he was like, oh, I met Paula, and Paula was telling me about Podfest. But you see, because I'm constantly talking about people, and it's going back to those people. Even Mopat, the amount of people that went to him and they're like, yeah, we came looking for you because Paula told us to come find you. Like all this, I would bring him to spaces. And all that brings all this connection and this network in a different level, which adds to your wins, because out of all that, I ended up getting job opportunities. I ended up being invited later. I got invited to parties that was strictly for people who were just members of that specific. But Paula attended every party. Paula did not pay no shit. Even my bill for my hotel room was paid, which was no part of it.
I got a question though on what you just said, because you said I don't want you to miss out on this point. Maybe we may talk about these 2 points later on in our podcast. One is exploring networks. Having to join a network. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? What are your things that you want to do, or what would you look into when you get into a network? That's one of the things. But there's one thing you just said right now, and I don't want to lose it. You've always been talking about yourself. You're always self, me, not talk shit with P, right? You never put that on the forefront, like I am whatever, but you dress up with the earrings, the t-shirt, and your shoes, and the swag. So there's no reason for you not to know who you are, because if you're meeting podcasters, the swag already tells you. Like, for example, if I'm going to wear my t-shirt for Sambaza, you see the Sambaza logo there, this is Sambaza. I have a hat, Sambaza. I don't have earrings of Sambaza though, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Speaking of that,
I might have
this new artwork of yours, you should create t-shirts, and I want that t-shirt. This new the new artwork you're doing, that's a good match right there. And this is coming from a person of match. That's good match. And if you do those t-shirts where like tie-dye and make it the blue and the white, bruh.
All right, we'll talk about it. So what I'm seeing is you're pushing yourself. So it's self first. I'm Paula. I'm the host. So learn who the host is. You already know the podcast. Know that I'm a good person. I'm a good host. You're not the persona that you see on who's gonna interview you or who you've seen talking is not the same persona. Now you're looking at me. Let's engage. Let's have a conversation. You see, and I've noticed that that's what you're pushing at. Maybe that's something that we could also talk about, when you talk about you. And I find that intriguing. because most people will be like talking about their show, hyping up their show, and most of the time we're told, hey, when you start talking, talk about your show, say what you do, talk about your podcast, but not you. You talk about, let's engage. Let me know who you are. Let's have this, if we're going for dinner, let's go for dinner. Okay, you're Buzzsprout. Okay, Buzzsprout. Nice to meet you. That's it.
And
But
it's funny because you say, even though I'm constantly dressed in my match, do you know Kevin of Buzzsprout even asked me, was like, why every time you take a picture, your tongue is out? And I was literally wearing my socks and my Nikes. And I put them on the top of the table and I was like, I'm on brand. And I was like, fuck, how did I not notice that? So even though you wear this much, sometimes people don't notice it, or they even don't really know it's you because we see what we want to see, or we pay attention to what we're paying attention. People might be looking at you, but they are listening to you and not paying attention to what you wear, or people are looking at you and thinking other things. So as much as I wear it, and that's why sometimes when I'm talking about myself and people are like, oh my God, I would love to have you on my podcast, or love to collaborate because of all the shit you said. Then I turn and you say, I'm talk shit with people, baby. This is why. And they're like, oh shit. So as much as we would think that people notice these things, they really don't. And especially in this world where there's so much brand and merchandise, just because you're wearing certain brand doesn't mean it's yours or that's you. So, and the reason I concentrate on me is because I've always been that person who's just curious about getting to know people in a deeper level, So even when I started my podcast was to create a safe space. How else am I going to create a safe space? Not by telling you what my show is, because anybody can tell you what their show is, but is it a good working environment? No. But once you know me and you hear all the shit I'm talking and you realize I'm not judgmental, I'm this, and we're just talking and you end up sharing things, you come into that conclusion, oh my God, Paula talks shit. Oh my God, Paula is a safe space. I don't have to tell you that. You see it, you witness it, you're part of it. And it's funny because I like sharing this story. Even Mopad, when I met them for the first time, it was in 2021 when I went to Podfest. 2021, 22, 23. No, 2022. I went to Podfest in 2022. And I met them the first night. Shout out to Ed. He invited me to karaoke, and Mopad Boys came out and we hanged out. And ever since that, the entire conference, I was constantly, if I wasn't in a talk that I wanted to be, because it was my first time in person, I was constantly on their booth. And after I left, I reached out to them and I was like, I requested a call, because when you go to conferences, every booth you go to, if you sign something or register, you put your email. After the conference, they send you a whole email about, oh, it was so nice meeting you, blah, 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 and all that. This is the freebies, try out or schedule a call. So I scheduled a call. And he goes, what's up, Paula? How can I help you? I'm like, you know what? Even though I spent 3 fucking days in your booth and with y'all, I don't know the fuck what you guys do. Can you tell me? And it was like, excuse me? I was like, bad. I knew about the kids. I knew about their family. I knew they loved karaoke. I knew how they met. I knew how the partnership became. I knew things, but I just didn't know what, because I never care about your title or your job. I want to know you. And once I know you, I know whether I want to be in touch with you or make you part of my life. Because people always are concentrated on title. Oh, once they know your title, then they want to know you because of your title, because they're trying to get on that. Me, I don't care. I don't care if you're a billionaire's kid or whatever. If we haven't connected in a level where it's more personal, and that's why most of my relationships in this industry has been on a personal level. I have people, Podmatch, Alex and Filippo, he sends me prayers when I'm down and he prays for me. Do you think that would have come out, oh, you own this shit? How can I get free shit? Oh, how can I be, No. But we got to know each other in that personal level where they check on me, they know me, and that's the relationships I like. That's how I want to run my business. That's how I want to run my brand, because that's who I am personally. And it has benefited me, and that's why I keep telling people that you sleeping on people because you think they're too small or they act crazy. Because when people see Nia Paula, it's just that she drinks Budweiser and talks shit. But then the people who have actually taken the time to sit and have those conversations with me, they know my mind, they know my heart, they understand, and that's why good shit keeps happening to me. That's why I get all these great deals than other people. It's not because, oh, he's a CEO of this, so let me get to know him. No, I don't care what you are. And that's why even in conferences, last year, this year at Podfest, you remember I told you at Podcast Movement last week, even bartenders, when they saw me, they knew my drink. Last year at Podfest, on the last day, I was waiting for my friend, and one of the guys was at the bar, and he called me, was like, Paula, you want a beer? I was like, sure. You want a drink? Sure. And he called the bartender and was like, she'd like a Budweiser. Have you met Paula? And the bartender was like, who doesn't know Paula? Because I talk to anybody, and I don't care if you're a bartender, if you're whatever. Like, I want to just get to know you, because even some of the people who have connected in a deeper level and have been able to help me are Uber drivers and shit. But just because they're Uber drivers doesn't mean that's all they do.
Even no. There's a human. Exactly. There's a human part of it. Right. Okay. So Paula, I think we've exhausted what we're talking about.
Says, Paula, how many episodes did you have of a podcast before you had your first guest? I only had the first episode was just me. From the second it was guest. My podcast has always been guest, and then I think after season 1 I started doing where first episode is me alone, and then I'll have an in-between solo, and then a last episode solo as well. But one thing I did, and if you've checked on my Instagram, is even when I'm interviewing a guest, and I'll do that on my laptop, and then I'll have a phone facing me, recording me. So because I have headphones and stuff, it's not hearing what the guest is saying, it's just hearing what I am saying. And I use those clips after the episode to promote myself. But then I use, when the episode comes out, I use clip to promote the guest, if that makes sense.
That's interesting.
So before we end this, because this was your topic, and I feel like you ended up kind of interviewing me instead of us actually talking about you and your milestone. So can you share? I know we are past time a little bit, but we can go a little bit just to celebrate you. Can you share your top 3 wins and top 3 lessons in your 5-year celebration of your podcast?
Let's see. My top 3 wins. The first win was to start the podcast itself.
That is something, because I met somebody who has been going to Podcast Movement for 10 years, and I asked him, what's your podcast? And I was like, I don't have a podcast. Every time I come here, I say I'm going to start a podcast, and it just became a routine where I come to hang out and reconnect with all.
And then my second win will be having to meet all these collectives that I've had. And I'll throw out my third win is on the day I went into my first workshop. It was called It was podcast intelligence by this guy who calls himself I Am Young God. I sat in that particular workshop, and for the first time I went back looking at what I've done from the beginning to where I was listening and sitting in that podcast, and I could see what he's talking about. I could contribute to what he's talking about, and at that moment I felt like I have something to say, not from the conversation part of it where you and I, like for example, I bring you as a guest and you listen to me. Not you listen to me. I bring you as a guest and we have a conversation with you. No, this is from podcaster to other podcasters, like younger podcasters who are out there, or starting podcasters, or people who are thinking about being podcasters. We could have that conversation, because I think there's the part of learning the skills and learning the skills of podcasting all this time, even though it's a short time. But I believe there's a lot of intensity that has gone through it to be able to get to where we are now. For the lessons that I've had, hmm, lessons are wait, my
You
lessons, first lesson
had a
was
mindset switch.
no, my lessons would be like learning how to cope with people not being able to interview a certain certain caliber of people or a particular guest that would not show up on my podcast. Maybe it was too small or whatever. The other lesson is learning how to take, for example, you feel like, okay, do you need to be validated? When you go to this, like say you get nominated for these awards and you want to win and say, you know what, I can have something out there stating my name, I can always say that. But the lesson will be you learn and say, hey, I've gotten this part to be makes me be out there as well. Because hey, being nominated, you can be nominated for an Oscar and never win an Oscar, but you're still nominated. It doesn't make
Exactly.
the whole thing, but you still
You
have that
just
for
being
the
nominated is a win, which we are
rest.
learning that because most people
Right,
think until you actually win the award, you're a winner. But being nominated is a win in itself. Out of all the other people, you got nominated, motherfucker. Take the win.
right. So the last one I would say lesson would be learning now how to move from where I am to maybe having like a studio where I can go sit and record proper. I have one which is a closet studio, but I think if I get a better studio where I can sit down and be able to say what I want to say and interview guests, um, make them comfortable, is what is a lesson that I've had. I've tried it. It's not worked at one point, but I keep trying it again and again and again, and I'm learning slowly by slowly how to get there, and I think I'll make it. So those are my three of both.
Junaid. I don't know if you met Junaid or you know about Junaid. I'll connect him to you. He helps people with home studios. He is amazing, and I love him so much. I did not get to take a picture with him in Podcast Movement, but I was with him in Empowered, and he's also a podcast. But I will connect with him, you with him, and he can assist in whatever you need. He's the perfect person.
All right,
But
that's what I'm talking
but
about.
also that me too,
Connections.
that has been on my mind. But because I'm moving out of America, so I'm like, I don't see the point of kind of building it right now, but it's been on my head, and I've constantly been seeing people either remodeling their studios or building it, and I'm like, God, I see it. I know I want it. Stop showing it to me because I'm trying to move fast. Let me move, and then we'll do this. But a studio feels just instead of constantly every time you need to go live or do something, you have to find a space or clean shit out just to have that perfect space where I feel that. So
Yeah, I
I,
would love to have a place where I just come up, turn on, and then be like, hey, like when I go to Kenya and do these interviews with guys from Baraza Studios or Baraza Media Lab and Sima Box. It's really easy. All he does is just turn on anything and tell me, okay, here, fixes, fixes, fixes. Equipment is there. Then turn on, and then you have that. You have a
everything ready
conversation.
set,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that's
So
one of the things. But who knows? We did not know we would be here today. And we
exactly. One last question,
have,
like the same one that you asked me. What's the next milestone for Sambaza podcast?
oh man, I think my next milestone is how to grow bigger and boost myself.
And how are you
In, with the that one we'll come talk about
next
that
time?
how I'll do it.
Okay.
But yeah, at this time it's how to make myself.
Francisco Dallas. Hey, we are amazing about to end. Thank you for stopping by. And before we go, let's share something that Afros and Audios is happening 18th to the 20th of October in Baltimore, Maryland. Um, Use my code. Don't use Sambaza's. Fuck Sambaza's code. Use my code
Have you
PS24 AFAU, and you will get 10% discount on your ticket.
how come yours is
The code is P for Paula, S for Sima, 24 for the year 24, A for Afro, F for France, A for Afro, U for University. Go out and buy those tickets. Me and Sambaza are gonna be on a panel with our friends Rokaya, Zenite, and Raf, and we are talking about voices of African diasporas, story told through podcasting. Come check us out. If anything else, support Black community, support Black podcasters, support Black creative, support the motherfucking Black niggas.
hey?
Yes, I said it.
I think we probably will need to do something before we get there, like a whole thing you talk about it before we get to the 20th. Kind of do a.
We can do October. That means we can do it October, but a little bit earlier, because I have an idea for September, which I'm gonna talk to you of my
Okay.
because September is International Podcasting.
Yeah,
But
we can.
we can add it in there as well, or we can. But we'll talk. And Sambaza, Francisco says I can help you grow bigger. So there you go.
Thank you for.
There you go.
Appreciate.
There you go. So
All
Sambaza,
right.
before we go, words or advice for the people who are figuring out their wins and losses, which we feel they're lessons and not losses?
I think you just take it in stride. Take it one at a time. Don't let these. Don't let the feelings. Don't be emotional about it. Right. Don't let the feelings hurt you. I always
I
look at
don't
it.
agree about don't be emotional. Don't let that. It's okay
No.
it's okay
No.
to be pain and shit, to feel it. Just don't let it drag you.
That's the point. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You will definitely feel emotional. We're human, but don't let it take you down.
I mean, even when
because
we say even when we say being nominated is already a win, but when you don't win it, you still get sad, and that's okay. But also remember that you were still nominated. That's what we're trying. That's what somebody's trying to say.
but also get this. Even when you're getting a lesson like that, always remember, like, if you're in the industry, you started today, nobody knows you. When you walk into a building and your first day at work, the 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 guard, the security guard who you meet at the door does not know you're going to be there working. But the first day he'll ask you for your ID and then tell you, oh, what are you coming to do here? Then you'll say, I'm coming for a job interview. He'll tell you, come in, and you get in there. Okay. When you start working there, 2, 3, 1 week, 4, 5 days, 4, 5 years, you'll be talking to them, saying hello, maybe know their kids, know their everybody in that building will know you or will have seen who's there. You'll develop a relationship. So I think don't push don't kill yourself. No, I'm going to say kill yourself in quotes on your podcast, looking at it like you are not gaining more traction, you're not doing things that they're not supposed to be. Always remember, you're going to grow. You'll meet Paula. I did not know who you are, but we met somewhere, and look at where we are now. We're all doing all this together. So there's growth all the time. All right.
Shout out to Craig who just got in. What somebody is trying to say is that just because you're not known right now doesn't mean you won't get known, but it also helps if you actually participate. And that's why for me, networking is number one, whether it's volunteering in the communities alive, showing up, supporting.
Before you get into that networking, that's the first thing you need to remember. You are just coming in. Now,
that's what I'm
the
saying.
tools that you need to work on now will help you. Now you'll be told, okay, you need to do this, and these are the instructions. Like, so now this is what you need to do. Then you'll be known. You see, but before you get to that point, the first thing you need when you're entering that thing is just know. Yes, you will not be known. Yes, you're going to have a hard time. Not a hard time, but I'm going to put in also, it's a hard time getting out there. But somehow there'll be tools available for you. How you use the tools, that's up to you.
All I'm saying is your example of security guard. If you walk in and you're not saying hi to the security guard, or asking him, how are you doing? How is your family? You can still be there in the building for 5 years and the security guard might not know you. They might know your face, but not know you. And that's why I say engagement and participation. Because if I'm not greeting you or asking you questions and you're just saying also good morning, we'll just be those buddies who just say good morning to each other every fucking day. But we don't know each other's name and shit. So participation matters.
All
That's
right.
what the otherwise, and that's why there are people in communities who have been there and they'll tell you, oh, I've been here for 6 years. Oh, how come I've never heard about you? Oh, I don't say shit. Oh, okay, cool. Like, you know? So it all matters, but
All right, Paula, we got to cut this off because we got meetings to go to, places to be at. And we'll have to cut this out and do it next time. We'll be talking. But with that, always celebrate your wins and your lessons, and as well as your milestones. Everybody, it's been great talking to you, Paula, and have a good evening. Till next time.